Greetings and welcome to the Fan Perspective. I'm your host Nathan Nile, and this is WNBA Weekly, the show where every Monday I stand in front of this camera and I talk about things that have happened recently in the association and things that I'm looking forward to in the upcoming days. This has been such a wild week with a lot of teams moving around, so I'm going to do a quickie update to my power rankings. First of all, we're doing this in no particular order. We're doing this as groups, starting with the top 5, the powerhouses, who I don't expect to ever see them slip under 500 for the rest of the year. And those are LA, Minnesota, Seattle, Washington, and of course, Diana Taurasi and the Phoenix Mercury, who are now sitting in that number 1 seed. Right now, those are the teams that are dominating. No one really wants to play against them. That being said, the Mercury and Storm should be on the lookout for a 4-game week because those seem to be undoing a lot of people. You had the Mystics at the start of the year 4-0. Then they had a 4-game week. Delle Donne goes down. They go 1-3. And then shortly after that, the Connecticut Sun was 7-1. They have a 4-game week. Alyssa Thomas goes down. They go 1-3. And they've just been sliding ever since. And this week, LA, they were number 1 in the league, a position they held basically the whole season. Then they have 4 games in 1 week. NECA goes down. They go 2-2. They slide from 1st to 3rd. So Phoenix fans, take a quick look at your schedules and just pray that there are no 4 games in 6 days because people seem to be struggling with those. Then you've got those middle of the pack teams like Connecticut, Dallas, Atlanta. Now Dallas and Atlanta, they've basically just stayed at 500 the entire season. Connecticut, they started off so well and they've just hit a huge slide. I think when Alyssa Thomas comes back, they should be able to right their ship just a bit. That being said, this is troubling to see them struggle this heavily. Fun fact, Connecticut has the 2nd best home record in the league. The only team with a better record than them, the Los Angeles Sparks, are at 8-1. But right now, the team with the number 1 record in the league, the Phoenix Mercury, they have the best road record in the league at 9-2. I might have deviated a little bit, but I felt like that needed to be stated. Back to these middle-of-the-pack teams like Dallas, Atlanta, Connecticut. As of right now, I expect them to make the playoffs, but I also would not be too shocked to see them get knocked out. There are a couple of teams, Chicago and possibly Vegas, that you've seen them improve as the season goes along, and you could possibly see them make a run at the playoffs, especially Chicago. I don't think anyone ever really expected the Fever to have a legitimate shot, but New York, they're struggling so heavily, and I feel like it would be a long shot to think that they could get in. That being said, there is still time for them to improve. Though there's still technically the possibility that they could finish with 20 wins on the year. Seems very unlikely, but it is possible. And I also want to take time to address the whole MVP situation because I was upset at some of the power rankings that I've seen come out lately. You've got Sylvia Fowles is still being considered one of the top MVP candidates. And as much as I respect Sylvia Fowles, she's a great anchor for that team, and they would definitely be struggling without her. She is not the reason for their success right now. It's Maya Moore. She's had 20 points in 7 straight games. And guess what? The Lynx have had 7 straight wins. She's taken 80 more shots than anyone else on her team. 80. That's the difference between her shot attempts and the 2nd place. Okay, that's a huge difference. Minnesota's winning streak began because they changed the way that they run their offense. They put the ball in Maya's hands. I think Maya Moore needs to be put into legitimate MVP candidacy because right now she is the driving force behind the Lynx success. Now that doesn't take away from the greatness that is Sylvia Fowles. It's just that right now it's Maya. She is the one that is carrying the team at the moment. Another dark horse that's shown up recently, Courtney Vandersloot. She had 3 straight games with double-digit assists, including a couple of double-doubles, and the Sky won 3 straight games. And then just now on Sunday, she only had 5 assists, and they end up falling in overtime to the Liberty. It's still hard to say right now if the Sky will get into the playoffs, But if they do manage to make it to the postseason, Courtney has to be one of the top MVP candidates because their success is entirely dependent on her ability to make plays and open up the floor for the rest of her players. She does such a masterful job of setting up her teammates in a position to win. You've seen Daimond Deshields and Gabby Williams having career numbers in games where she's playing. In fact, I think the only time that both of them have ever been in double figures in the same game is when Courtney is getting the double-digit assist. I want to take a second to talk about a couple of moves that have been made recently. In case you haven't heard, the Sparks cut Cappie Pondexter. It seemed like she just wasn't working out with them. I'm not sure what the problem was, but she was just picked up by the Fever. She should be joining their rotation. Not sure how they're going to use her, but she's definitely a skilled playmaker who can really, I feel like she can make any team better, especially a team like the Fever. She adds a lot of leadership, championship experience, and even more depth at an already stacked guard position. Especially now with Kelsey Mitchell, she seems to be hitting the wall recently. I also want to take a second to talk about Sue Bird. I've gone out of my way to avoid going too stats heavy on this channel. It's been something that a lot of people don't seem to respond well to, but I gotta give it up for the legend because she's already number 1 all-time in assists. This week she tied Gia Perkins for 5th all-time in steals. She's now 23 behind Cheryl Swoops for 4th all-time, something she could easily do by the end of the year. She passes Katie Smith for 2nd all-time in minutes played, and she's currently number 8 in career points, 29 more, and she will only be the 8th player in league history to get 6,000 career points. She is also currently 36 points behind former teammate Lauren Jackson for 7th all-time and number 1 in Storm history. I also want to mention Rebecca Brunson. She is 13 rebounds behind Lisa Leslie for 2nd all-time, 22 behind Tamika Catchings for 1st all-time. So unless she gets hurt, she's going to get that before the end of the year, possibly before the end of the month. And last but not least, we got Sylvia Fowles. She needs 6 more blocks to pass Tammy Sutton-Brown for 5th all-time. And then 2 more after that, she would pass Tangela Smith. You know the scariest thing about that? Brittany Griner has 5 less blocks than Sylvia Fowles. Let me put that into perspective for those who don't know. But Brittany Griner, she has as many career blocks as Sylvia Fowles, someone who's been in the league twice as long and won 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Brittany Griner is going to be shattering a bunch of records before she retires. We move on to the part of the show where I tell you all the games that are coming up in the next week. As always, I will tell you which ones are currently scheduled to air nationally. For the rest, check your local listings, or you can watch every single game on WNBA League Pass. And do not forget that the times I'm telling you are Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to adjust for your time zone. This week is still going to be a busy one, but slightly easier for everyone. They all have 2 or 3 games, except for the Aces. They only have 1. A few teams like the Fever, the Dream, the Sun, they're going to be on the road all week. So the Sun, especially since they're one of those 3-game teams, they're going to be struggling. But then you have a team like Dallas that has a legitimate shot at going 3-0 this week and building some momentum, just for the fact that all of their games are against teams beneath them in the standings. So if they can't win those, then you have to start worrying about how their season's going to turn out. I know Dallas has had just a little bit of adversity to deal with this season, but I do feel like they're probably the most disappointing team to me. New York kind of saw it coming just a tiny bit, but Dallas, I legitimately expected them to be slightly more dominant, yet they seem to have just moved laterally. This season, their play is basically matches last year's, where you never know which team you're going to get on any given night. You got 4 games being played on Tuesday, 1 of them on Twitter. You got no games on Wednesday. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Enjoy your day. You've got 5 games being played on Thursday. Almost every team in action. 3 of them are going to be on ESPN. 2 of them on ESPN3, 1 on ESPN2. And then over the weekend, once again, a ton of games. None of them are going to be broadcast. And those of you who have been a while, you might have noticed that when I'm doing this segment, I usually like to pick specific games that I think are going to mean the most. But it's just so hard to tell now, especially with this new once-a-week format, just because Some of these games, you have no idea if it's actually going to mean anything. Like with the Mystics and the Storm, they play each other on Sunday. It's the last game of the week. That could potentially be two teams on a hot streak fighting for first place. It could also be two teams on a losing streak and the Mystics just fighting to stay above 500. And honestly, right now, just about every team in the league is worth paying attention to. Minnesota, how long are they going to keep tearing it up? Washington, will they continue to dominate the East? Kind of looks like it. The East is pretty weak right now. You got teams like Seattle and Phoenix that have now taken over that first and second spot. You know, how long till they stumble? Because right now, number one seems to be the hardest place to be. Just ask LA. I mean, the Connecticut Sun, how long are they going to keep sliding? The Dream and the Wings, are they ever going to put it together and start getting an actual winning streak together? Or are they just going to keep going back and forth, exchanging wins and losses, and just finish right at 500 at the end of the year? New York looked good in that win. If they're going to make a move, this is the time. If either New York, Chicago, or Vegas can manage to put 2 or 3 wins together in a row, you know, they put themselves right in playoff contention, especially Chicago. I think they're only 2 games out right now. I mean, if Chicago and Vegas can manage an undefeated week and the Wings go winless, guess what? The Wings are out of the playoffs. So for the rest of the season, I'm probably just going to keep doing it this way. Just brief overview of some of the things going on this week and maybe a couple of teams I'm paying attention to. And then as we get closer to the playoffs and specific scenarios start shaping up, we might tighten shit up a little bit. But for the moment, my advice is to just watch as many games as possible, because for the moment, just about all of them are important. Well, that's it for now. Tune in next week for another all-new edition of WNBA Weekly. And until then, this has been The Fan Perspective. I'm your host, Nathan Nile. Have a great week. Forgot to say, happy 4th of July. I'm going to be celebrating by not leaving my house at all, because I like having free time to just chill and be me. But yeah, if you feel like it, go to my Twitter at Nathan Nile and just tweet at me pictures of whatever you're eating. Hot dogs, burgers, grilled chicken, whatever. I like looking at pictures of food. Also, tell me in the comments down below, who are you voting for the All-Star game? Because honestly, I'm picking a different players every single day. Just whoever's been playing the best most recently. It's just so difficult, especially at the forward position. The guards pretty much the same people every time, but at forward you've got so many incredible playmakers. Delle Donne, Moore, Candace Parker. She's a center / forward, but whatever. I'm counting her. Tina Charles. Just the list is gigantic. A'ja Wilson. I mean, I'd like to see her make the All-Star game, but she is a rookie at one of the most stacked positions in the league, so we'll just have to wait and see. Either way, this is probably going to be one of the best All-Star games ever. Also, are they bringing back the 3-point competition? I need to ask about that. You know what I want to see, though? I want to see them bring the skills competition into the league. I think there are a lot of players who would do very well at that.